Hey y'all, I'm Paige Feldman. I'm a writer and director, and here on this YouTube channel, I'm documenting the making of my first feature as a writer-director from idea to premiere in real time. Now, last week I finished my latest draft of my script, and right now I'm just kind of letting it chill and marinate until I'm ready to go back in for a rewrite, because I like to keep it a little bit of distance between me and my script before I go in for that next rewrite. So today I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about an email I got from someone in my writers group. Now, this email was a really excited one saying, guys, I found this opportunity where there's a literal production company having an open call for writers, and you could actually get hired into a writer's room, which on the surface that sounds amazing, because for me, like, even though I've had a feature produced, just like trying to break into Hollywood, still trying to be able to work consistently as a writer and a filmmaker, any opportunity I have, especially since I'm unrepped, would be awesome. So I took a look at it, and on the surface, it looked fantastic. It was a production company that had just formed from a publishing company, so they have a full stream of books and other IP that they're ready to develop and get out there. And their execs supposedly worked at big companies, some of them Hulu, Lionsgate, etc. But then I started reading a little bit closer, and this whole thing is full of red flags. So without further ado, I'm going to screen share, show you the exact job posting, and I'm going to point out these red flags. All right, so we are in this job posting. Now you see it's a Word document, because while this is a posting full of red flags, I don't know this company. I don't know whether these red flags are actually red flags, or if it's just like, this is the exception to the rules that I'm going to show you. So I have copied and pasted this job description from their website verbatim. The only thing I've changed is I've taken out any references to the production company name. So it is anonymous, but this is the call for the call for a job. All right, so writer's room job description. We do not accept any script submissions. Please follow our submission process. So far, so good. I'm just going to go through it the way that I went through it as I was first reading it. So there's seeking staff writers to join a writer's room, developing film and television scripts they plan to take to market. Great. Okay, so they're not saying we are going to produce everything. All right, they're just looking for writers to start working on some scripts. It's a job posting, so they must have the discipline and time in addition to script writing skills. They're building a writing team and want it to function as such. That is pretty standard in terms of TV. They say that they're doing film and TV, film and television writers. So I'm just going to assume that this is like a writer's room. And sometimes even with big films like Marvel films, they'll have mini rooms where they'll break ideas until they get something that they really like, and then they'll assign a writer to it. So sometimes even films work more like the traditional TV writer's room. Now we get down to compensation. Writers will be paid $500 per month during the term of this agreement as a non-refundable royalty advance against future money earned. All right, $500 per month. It is not a full-on you can live on this salary, but they are going to be paying for development, which is actually really awesome. And it's something that you don't get as a writer, usually until you have had credits and have gotten a job as a staff writer or made a film already, and a production company wants to hire you to develop your ideas. So the fact that you can be an unproven, untested, unagented writer and make money sounds good. Writers will also be paid 50% of net revenue generated from each of their written scripts sold, less the amounts for a royalty advance, which is standard for royalty advance. So 50% of net revenue plus, in addition to the $500. So if you sell something, you're going to get some money. Great. Production company will place 20% of its remaining 50% share of the net compensation into a compensation pool that will distribute to all staff writers, which is pretty awesome. So let's say that there's a script that did really well, sold really big. You didn't write it, but you were in the room on the team, and you kind of helped break it, and you were working with this team, this whole team of writers, and this one person was the one that was selected to write the script, and that's the one that sold. So you're getting rewarded for the work you're putting in. Sounds good. And then pooled compensation distributions are one-time payments and not considered royalty advances, which is great because it means that you're not going to be expected to essentially pay the company back via future profits. This is like a bonus payment you get just for being in the room if something does well. So important considerations, looking for writers who envision a future where they are writing for film and or television full time. Like, yes, hello. All work is performed on a work for hire basis. That is standard for Hollywood. So that looks good. Our primary focus when selling our projects is the project itself. Your script is a tool in the process, but only a tool. I mean, like, it's disappointing, but that is also how Hollywood works, but usually people aren't as upfront about it. We'll be providing you with a steady stream of writing assignments. Great. Finally, you need to embrace the idea of developing a large number of scripts. We're looking to work with writers so they create dozens of scripts. At least some of them will sell and become film or television series. So they're looking for people that are in it for the long haul, that are interested in working, interested in writing, and they also seem to have realistic expectations that not every script is going to sell or become huge. Great. So next steps, this is the application. If this sounds interesting to you, please apply. The application process involves selecting a genre of interest, downloading project specification, writing a 5 to 10 page sample script. If your writing sample is approved, you'll go through an interview process, and if both parties feel comfortable moving forward, it's nice that they say both parties, you'll get started on a probationary period for 3 months. And after that, then you'll either be hired or not. So this seems like at first glance a pretty decent job opportunity. You have people who seem to know the ins and outs of Hollywood. They are setting expectations very realistically and are promising compensation even if nothing sells. So I can definitely see why my writing group friend was tempted. I can see why I got a little bit starry-eyed when I first read it, but there are some red flags and I'm just gonna mark them here. So those are all the red flags. And I've marked the relevant portions between two flags so you can kind of see where it's cordoned off. And it's not an insignificant number, as you can see. There's something in almost every paragraph. Let's go through them, and I'll tell you what I'm seeing. First of all, writers should be able to devote at least 10 hours to writing per week. What does this include? Willing and able to work on developing their writing skills. Should be able and willing to support each other creatively, including reading each other's work and providing suggestions. We want to emphasize that we are building a writing team and want it to function as such. All right, so 10 hours to writing per week. It's not that bad. That's 2 hours per day on a weekday. 1 hour per day if you're working 7 days a week, plus a couple days where you're writing for 2 hours a day. Not terrible. However, you're supposed to be developing your writing skills, able and willing to support each other creatively, including giving notes. So what this is saying is you're essentially going to be functioning as both a writer and a writing group / development executive, and you're only getting $500 per month, which is, let's just break it down. If it's, 4 weeks in a month, that is, and 10 hours per week. So you're working, let's say you're doing the bare minimum, but what it sounds like is you're going to be doing 20 hours. But let's just say the requirement is 10 hours. So it's going to be 40 hours per month at $500 per month. That is, I think, $12.50 an hour. Let me just do the math here. $500 divided by 40 hours a month. Yeah, $12.50. You're getting paid $12.50 an hour. That's below minimum wage in California. $12.50 an hour. And that's if you do the bare minimum. That's a high expectation of time to devote to this job outside of the other job that I'm sure you'll have to work to support yourself. Especially because this $500 a month isn't even a payment. It is a royalty advance against future money earned. This part just makes me mad. So if you've been watching me for a while, you know that my mom is a published author. She has multiple books published with I don't know how many there are anymore, the big publishers. And so royalty advances work thusly. You are paid for your book. Let's just call it a book because this is something that happens in publishing. You get paid for your book a certain amount. That amount is in advance of future earnings. Then, and only when you have sold out of the advance, like your advance has paid for itself with book sales, do you start earning royalties on your book, which is like a 10% of the purchase price, typically. I think that's what it is last time I checked. If I'm wrong, sorry, please let me know. So essentially, you're getting paid $500 a month against future money earned, when, as we all know, there is no guarantee that these scripts are even going to sell. How long do you think a script takes to sell? Because it's not like you're going to be like, you finish the script in a month, let's say you work really hard and, you're doing $8 an hour for your work, which your writing is worth more than $8 an hour. Let me just say that. It's worth more than $12.50 an hour. I'm writing for free right now, but that's because no one's paying me, but that's because I like it, not because it's a job. And I'm writing what I want to write because nobody's paying me. So let's say that you in that first month, you write a script and they love it and they're going to take it to market. When do you think that's going to sell? It is highly unlikely that even if it sells or gets optioned by a larger company, or if they get financing for it, that any of that money is going to clear faster than 6 months. So at that point, you have $3,000 that you have to out-earn. But how are you going to do that? Because the movie hasn't been made yet. Is it the fact that, is the budget going to just cover your entire writing fee? What is your writing fee for having written this script once it's sold? It's probably nothing, because let's just scroll down here. If a studio wants to buy your script, we'll do that deal and the standard royalty arrangement would apply. So you don't even get an agent. You're signing this contract, you work for these people, you are signing away your right to negotiate and to get paid for the work you've done. Your work is getting paid through a royalty advance, this is not how a royalty advance works, because what you're getting paid for is basically in lieu of an actual script fee. You're getting paid money, which you will never earn out. And here's why. Writers will also be paid 50% of net revenue generated from each of their written scripts sold. So that sounds great. 50% of net revenue. First of all, 50% of net, it sounds great. 50% of the net revenue. Except, how do they calculate the net revenue? It's not the gross. It's not all of the money they made. This is all of the money. This is their profit after they have made the film, after it's been released, after it's been sold to a distributor, after they recoup all of the money from the sales agent that they've paid, from the investors that they need to pay back with interest first, from the marketing, from the prints and advertising, P&A fund that they've paid, from all of the markets that they've taken it to, Cannes, Berlin, AFM, from all the festival fees. I'd like 50%, you're gonna get, maybe, if you're lucky, you might get $5. Because let me tell you, I've taken a look at this website. I'm not going to share it. I'm pretty well versed in the book world, all things considered, and I recognize 0 of those authors and 0 of those titles. They might be a non-independent publisher or a non-vanity publisher, but they're an independent publisher with a fine roster of authors. And I'm not throwing shade at these authors. It's just in terms of popularity and the desire, they don't have a Colleen Hoover whose books are taking off right now. They have solid mid-list authors. And so there's not going to be a huge demand for these films. Additionally, last I checked, which was pretty recently, there is a giant movie that has spawned a franchise, multiple sequels, that has not, according to the books at the studio that made it, not made a profit. That movie is Men in Black. Men in Black has not yet, according to the studio accounting, made a profit. Despite them having made, I think, 3 various sequels, spin-offs. I think there was even a Saturday morning cartoon. You are never seeing any more than this $500 a month based on all of this stuff. So while $500 a month while you're waiting for something to sell sounds great, if you read between the lines or even just understand a little bit of how studio accounting works and how filmmaking works, you're never going to see any more than that money. You're never going to out-earn Because the other thing is that you keep accruing a $500 bill every month that you are working for these people. It makes me really mad. Moving on. I'm not going to get less mad, by the way. I'm just trying to like temper it, so I'm not shouting at you because it's not y'all's fault. Y'all hopefully will learn and not be tempted by these sorts of things. All right. Then, a production company will place 20% of its remaining 50% share of the net compensation into a compensation pool. That compensation pool, as I just discussed, does not exist. For all intents and purposes, you might see 50 cents from it. It's like one of those class action lawsuits where it's like, sign up and you can get up to $250 and you get a check for $2.16 in your mailbox. It's all bullshit. But here's the thing that's even worse about this. So, monies will be distributed over a roughly 12-month period of time and will only be paid to staff writers that are currently writing for a production company at the time of distribution. Oh, it's terrible. The whole thing that I was saying earlier about how, like, if you were in the writer's room and you, like, helped break that story, but you weren't, like, lucky enough to have been the one assigned to write the script that, like, really took off, it does not matter if you were there or not. You, like, would have to be, by the time any money was in this pool, and 20% of 50% is 10%. By the time any money is in that pool, and also then 10% is going to get split amongst whoever's in this room at the time, even if you worked on this project, if you don't still work for the production company, if you're not still in your indentured servitude with this, like, dumb royalty advance, you're not getting anything. You're not seeing anything. You're not seeing any money from this. It's only if you happen to be working there by the time they actually have any money in this imaginary compensation pool that will never make any money. There's some creative accountants out there. It's never going to make any money. But even if there is, even if you get your $2.16, even if you were working in that room at the time, it doesn't matter unless you're still in your indentured servitude. Not going to happen. And they're not considered royalty advances, though. Good news. Ugh. Again, calming breath, moving on. This work for hire basis thing, it's actually real. The whole rest of this thing makes me mad, but at least they're being honest about this part. We don't guarantee you'll get there. We're looking for people who want a career as a screenwriter. They are looking like, this is not a red flag, but I'm going to mark it as such because fuck them. We're looking for people that want a career as a screenwriter. Like, this is just them preying on your hope and your, like, desire to get this. And the fact that being a screenwriter itself is a working screenwriter in Hollywood for money where you don't have to work like any other job, it's harder to do that than to play in the NBA. It's preying on your desire and your dreams. By just saying that, it's like, oh, if I get this job, I could be a working screenwriter. And you could, but not with not with these people. These people are scammers. This is why I'm not telling you what the company name is, because I would get sued so fast. And again, I say they're scammers. I don't know if that's the case. They might just be inexperienced. They might be like not have a lot of cash to put towards this. And so they're trying to find, because there are a lot of undiscovered, wonderfully talented writers who just haven't gotten their break yet. And this is a way to try to find some of them, and hopefully everyone can help each other. And maybe the people who are running this company are very inexperienced, and I have reason to believe that they are, that I'll share with you later. But the way that this is set up is very unethical, in my opinion, whether it's because of ignorance or because they're scammers, which they're not necessarily scammers, they just might be stupid. God, I can't be charitable about this. It's terrible. This is all awful. And the fact that they're just preying on hope like that, just, if you ever see a job posting like this, just take a second, take a breath, and understand that, like, this is a play on your emotions right here. If you want to be a screenwriter or a filmmaker, it's a way of breaking your ability to look at these things critically and find all of these red flags. Next red flag. This is so terrible. It's so easy to be like, oh, this is just good Hollywood business, but it's not. If a studio wants to move forward with a project but bring in a different writer to create a completely new script, then we will do that deal and you would not receive any royalties or credit. Well, number one, you're not receiving any royalties in the first place because of everything before. All this mesh, I guess. But this is a red flag because while in Hollywood, you are, studios will bring in new writers all the time and fire you off it, etc. In Hollywood, you are entitled to compensation for your work. You should have signed a contract saying, I will write this and I will get money. If you are a WGA member or not, because I know there's a lot of talk about beggars can't be choosers if you're not in the W. No. I got paid for the script that I wrote. That was a work for hire. It wasn't a lot, but I got paid because I did the work. And if the director decided to bring in another writer to change that around, the contract I signed said I would get paid anyway, and I would get credit. This is basically, you are in indentured servitude and you will write what we tell you, and if we don't like it, you don't get any credit for any of the work you've done. Create a completely new script. There are page one rewrites all the time, but maybe they'll use some of the ideas that the first writer brought in and they get a story by credit instead. This is all like anti-WGA right here. Because the WGA will allow for arbitration, will allow for credits to be dispersed. Well, they even have a credit called additional literary material by for writers who have written significant, maybe chunks of the script or who have helped the development. And they deserve credit too. And they deserve money too. Your work is valuable. It is worth more than $12.50 an hour from a company who is looking to find the best ways to cut costs and prey on your hope. And this is just so antithetical to the value of writers that they're preaching everywhere in this posting. It's disgusting. I already talked about this, but we'll just bear with it again. If the studio wants to buy your script, we'll do that deal and the standard royalty arrangement would apply. They'll do that deal. You don't matter. This posting, that's what this is saying. It's saying you don't matter. Your work doesn't matter. Your ability to write and create stories doesn't matter. Our ability to sell it is all that matters. And you don't have any autonomy. You are signing away your right to an agent, to a lawyer, to negotiation by being in this writer's room. It is indentured servitude. I'm going to keep saying it. And this is not okay. If everything else looks spick and span, if everything else before that I had said was fixed, if everything after this was fixed, and this sentence was the only sentence that was left of these red flags in this posting, I would still say run. Because what this means is that you are signing away your legal right to advocate for yourself. You are signing away your right to find an advocate for you and get what you deserve. This is not okay. These red flags right here is kind of like one and the same, and it's much less high stakes, but it still made me go a little bit, huh? So we're going to talk about it. You will have limited or no creativity with respect to the nuts and bolts of the story. You'll be doing this writing to our specifications. However, you'll be expected to develop and demonstrate a tremendous amount of creativity and skill with how you tell that story, how you bring those characters and situations to life. Do you know what that means? Because I don't. I've gone through various iterations of what that could possibly mean in my head, and I just have no frickin' clue. Like, you have, here's all the things that are gonna happen, but you have the freedom to make them happen. Like, that's, I know that there's a difference between, here is an outline and a list of events, and here is, what people are saying within those events, but it's, I don't know what this paragraph even means, why it's here. It's almost like it's saying, all right, sweatshop, you're not a fashion designer, you're just a seamstress. And maybe that's why it bothers me. It sort of continues to devalue the work of the writer while also going and saying, okay, if you want to be a Hollywood writer full time, you're going to sell screenplays, you're going to get paid, you're going to be part of a team. It's like this rah-rah, but also I'm going to step on you. I just don't feel like someone who would write this and put this in a job description for a writer, even though job description for a writer in this way is its own giant red flag because this isn't how anything works. it tells a lot about the people who are writing this description and what they really think of you. It's that we know the stories we're going to tell, and you can do your little special thing with it just because we don't know how to put it on the paper right. But the story is ours, and you can't change it, and you have no creative freedom. Except, like, character is story. And the situations and how they're brought to life is story. So I don't know what this whole difference is between these two things. And that was less fraught than the other things. And then this one is just kind of related to all of the compensation bullshit I was talking about earlier. We're not bringing writers on board to write a script or even a couple of scripts. We're looking to work with writers as they create dozens of scripts. The more that I read this and explain it, the more that I think indentured servitude or sweatshop is the right answer, because you're looking to work with writers as you create dozens of scripts. How long do they think a script takes to write? Because if I'm just like really focused and in the zone, I can do a draft of a script after outline's complete in about 2 weeks. But that's not something I can repeat over and over and over again over the course of a year or 2 years or even just 6 months. That is a very specific kind of work. And at a certain point, you're going to burn out. And you're going to burn out from not being able to tell the stories the way that you want, and from not being able to come up with your own ideas, from not having the creative freedom or the time to work on your own stuff, and you're not even being paid properly. So it's again, this is another thing about culture here. And now the next steps, which is where this is really like scammy to me. I said writing a 5 to 10 page sample script to that outline. The application process involves selecting a genre of interest, downloading the project specification for that genre, and writing a 5 to 10 page sample script to that outline. Now this might seem reasonable on its face, because they don't want you to submit original stuff. They don't want to get into copyright issues. They just want to be able to, they have the rights to all these stories. So you're going to write a sample script for this outline, and you can see if you can actually do the job. Except this is really suspect, because what they say earlier is that we will provide a detailed outline of the story. We will be providing each writer with a detailed story outline for each of their scripts. As a reminder, we own 100% of all rights to the material. We'll be providing with a steady stream of writing assignments. You'll be doing this writing to our specifications. You will have limited or no creativity. So all of that, plus you are suddenly writing a 5 to 10 page sample script to that outline with their project specifications. You know what I think that means? First of all, you're not getting paid for this script, which I don't know how long they think it takes to write a good 5 to 10 page sample. But I'm going to guess that little 10 hours per week they think you should be writing minimum, it's going to be at least that. You're not getting paid for it. It's to their specifications. They own all the material. You are giving them free development work. You are giving them free scripts. They don't even have to hire you, and they own everything that you are turning into them as part of your job application. And because you don't work for them, you're not getting paid. Remember, if a studio wants to move forward with the project but bring in a different writer to completely create a new script, we will do that deal, and you would not receive any royalties or credit. Our primary focus when selling our projects is the project itself. Your script is a tool, but only a tool. If a studio wants to buy your script, we'll do that deal, and the standard royalty arrangement would apply, except if you don't work for them, there is no standard royalty arrangement. So I don't know what the hell this is. This is free work. This is you writing to their outline, their copyright, their material, which they say multiple times in this posting. For free, 5 to 10 page sample. You've just done development work for them. They don't even have to hire you. They're going to make money off you. Maybe, maybe not, but they assume they're going to make money off you. You're giving them free scripts. If writing sample is approved, you'll go through an interview process, during which time we get to know each other. I'd love to get to know them and give them a piece of my mind. But I'm not applying for this because I'm not giving them any more of my time except warning you all against this. And then, if both parties feel comfortable moving forward, which is a nice thing to say, but we'll get you started on a probationary basis. This probationary period lasts 3 months. You have 3 months of probationary period. Does that mean that you're going to get paid your royalty advance? I'm not sure. Because if we go up to this royalty advance during the term of this agreement, I don't know what agreement this is right here because this is just a job posting. Is the probationary period outside the term of the agreement? I don't see anything about probationary period here. Writers, like over a 12-month period of time, looking for people to write dozens of scripts. 3 months is not enough time to write dozens of scripts. I'm not sure, but let's assume that you do get your $500 a month during that probationary period. So you get $1,500 in your royalty advance. Here's how I see this playing out. You write your script. You, they say, you know what, thank you, good work, but this isn't for us. You leave. You're no longer subject to this 12-month period, money distribution, pooled compensations that will never happen. But let's say, you don't get your $2.16. Then it says 50% of net revenue generated from each of the written scripts sold. And even if they're not going to do this bullshit accounting, they have the absolute right to bring in a different writer to create a completely new script, not credit you, not let you know. So suddenly you've been paid $1,500 for 3 months of work for a script that maybe sells, but they decide to give it to somebody else and have them do a page 1 rewrite, except you will have limited or no creativity with respect to the nuts and bolts of the story. So they could literally take your script, give it to another writer and say, don't even change the names of the characters. I want you to go through and rewrite the lines of dialogue that aren't fully crucial, but everything else stays in place and that's it, because you don't own the nuts and bolts. You don't own the structure of the story. You don't own what happens, which, by the way, it's just the part of copyright is you do own it, but the way you're doing this is work for hire, so it doesn't matter. And somebody else will get the script sold who works for them already, and they'll do that deal. But they don't get paid either because it's not going to make enough for them to outbid their royalty advance. So basically, from all this, God, I'm so mad. Basically, if you apply to this job, you're giving them free development work. You're going to be giving them 3 months of your life, after which you'll probably not work anymore. And you will never get that $1,500 back, if you even get that $1,500 in the first place. What I imagine is happening is you get this job in the writer's room, you get your probationary period, and then if you get to stay on after 3 months, they'll retroactively pay you your $1,500 royalty advance in that 4th month, plus, you get $2,000 up front. And then, but you're probably very, very unlikely that you will last past that 3-month probationary period, because this is just so many little loopholes to just take advantage of you. And then let's say you make it past, you get $2,000, which you immediately start with. You'll never out earn, and they're paying you $12.50 an hour below minimum wage on a minimum for your writing, which is worth way more than that. So that is the job description. And when I was going through this, I was like, okay, I really want to give these people the benefit of the doubt. And the best I can do is that they're just inexperienced. That's the best I can do. Because I looked through the website, I was like, let me get some more information, because maybe there's something here that'll show me oh, this is what they're doing. This is a past experience. And I'm not going to bring this up on the screen share, obviously, because it's just not I don't want to get sued. I could get sued for slander, even though everything I'm saying is I have a reasonable belief for it, and I've given plenty of proof here. It's my attorney training kicking in. But here's some things, let's say that you saw this and you were like, this feels off, but I don't know about the red flags. You haven't seen this video yet, and you wanted to try to figure out what's wrong, what this company's about, because maybe it's just a weird, is this too good to be true? No, it's this isn't up, you wanted to make sure that everything was copacetic before you applied. So what I did first is I went on their website and I looked for the execs that were listed, because if I could find some names, figure out who's behind it, kind of see what they've done before, get a sense of how they do business, that might be good. Except there are literally no executives listed on that website. The best they have is a list of companies where they have worked before. And when I say worked, I mean that literally. It says worked for and facilitated sales for companies XYZ, and like Hulu and Lionsgate are two of them. I'm not going to name any more, but similarly large companies. But the thing is that worked for and facilitated sales for, that is something that I could have said at my first day on the job at the sales agency and production company that I worked for, where I eventually became the production executive. The first day. And let me tell you something else about the first day at that company, because one of the things I did was I like printed out a contract and made sure that my boss signed it. That's facilitating a sale. And I worked for them one day. But you know what else I did on that first day? I Wikipedia'd what a sales agency was, because I had no clue. You can work for someone and not know anything. Like I know now, but I didn't know then. I was dumb then. It's okay. But using this worked for and facilitated sales for language makes it sound like these people like, oh, big important jobs. But they could have been a temp assistant that like went around Hollywood, because that's a job. You can be like an assistant at a temp agency that's very specifically for the entertainment industry. And you get hired to do like 2 weeks here, 4 weeks there, maybe 6 months there. Someone's on maternity leave. You could go around at all these companies and you could work for and facilitate sales for them and barely get a sense of what they do. So that language was a red flag. The no execs listed was a red flag. And then I just kind of looked at their book stuff, because I know a little bit about the book world, and it has like some awards listed. But the thing is that most of them are very vague, like gold medals and names of awards that you've never heard of before. It's not the Newbery, it's not the Caldecott for Children's, it's not the Pulitzer, it's not the Poe. It is stuff that you've never heard of. And when I tried to, well, as the antique dealer, when I tried to sell some antique books to him, said, have you heard of these? No? Well, neither have I, and that's why they're not worth anything. There's one award that I've heard of, but only because I know the company that gives it out, not because the award actually has much or any meaning. And that's not to say you shouldn't like work to inflate your ego and be proud of the things you've done. But the combination of them inflating their own ego and self-worth and all of the braggadocio behavior without the accountability of names really raised my hackles. And it should raise yours too. So if you ever come across one of these job postings, an open call for writers that isn't WGA affiliated, where you don't have to send like something from an agent, where they're not asking for an existing writing sample from you. And that's like a real like first step red flag. If they're asking you to write something for them on spec for a job application, I would say 9 times out of 10 bow out. But, you know, always read the job description. Think about the worst case scenario, because maybe what I'm saying, maybe all of this is just bad wording and inexperience. In my experience, though, that's not what it is. It's people trying to save a buck by taking advantage of the dream factory that is Hollywood. So that's that job posting. Thank you all for listening to my rant, and I hope that this was helpful to you in terms of figuring out how to handle these moments of, oh my gosh, I could have a chance, and then realize that maybe you're going to be signing up for indentured servitude of writing and it's terrible. If you have anything to add, if there are any red flags you saw that I didn't notice, please write them down in the description. I'd love to see them, see what I've missed. And if you have any questions for me, again, leave them in the comments. Would love to hear them. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week for another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making Of.